Today, we are on site at Cooper Legacy Dairy in New Mexico, unpacking heritage, leadership, and the technology that's reshaping what it means to run a modern dairy farm, even from 100 miles away, all while honoring a 5-generation family legacy. This isn't just a farm story, it's a glimpse into the future of dairying as we sit down with Jered Cooper and hear how tech is a tool in making this all possible here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This is the podcast for dairy producers and professionals who are committed to moving our industry forward. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and each week we bring you the leaders, the lessons, and real-world stories from the people who have built the dairy business we know today and those who are shaping its future. Join us on the journey by following Uplevel Dairy on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox. This episode is part of the High Performance Mindset series powered by Nedap. Nedap is future-proofing dairy farming with smart technologies and activity monitoring, cow locating, milk metering, sort gates, and AI-powered camera systems. Nedap is improving life on the farm by putting the right cow in the right place at the right time, every time. So Jered, we're here at your dairy in Clovis, New Mexico, Cooper's Legacy Dairy. Just give me a little bit of a snapshot. I have the privilege of being here in person and getting to see it for myself, but somebody that's not here, how would you describe your dairy?
Well, first of all, thanks for coming. Thanks for what you do. We really appreciate you being here and producing this podcast. Cooper Legacy Dairy is a 2,000 cow milking cow dairy here in East New Mexico. We in dairy farming, but we milk 2,000 cows. We raise all of our replacement heifers. We also farm 2,500 acres. So we are a dairy farming operation.
And when you say Cooper Legacy Dairy,
yes,
that's a lot of generations in your family that have been in the dairy business.
And you see that a little bit of it behind us, and we'll tell a few of these stories later on. But yeah, on both sides of my wife's side and my side, we are 5th generation dairy farmers. Going my side from Plymouth, Michigan, my great-great-grandfather, and then on my dad's side in Arizona. So the two started out in different locations, but here we are in New Mexico with Cooper Legacy Dairy now.
Okay, so you have laid out a lot of geography.
Yes.
How did you end up in Clovis? How did you end up carrying on the Cooper family legacy here?
Interesting story that you asked that. I was actually grew up as a young boy in Arizona, Chandler, Arizona. We milked probably about 600 cows there, Guernseys. And then my dad shifted the herd over to Holsteins. That was a big change for my grandfather to see because he loved Guernseys. You actually see a trophy here of one of the Guernseys that for DHIA was the highest producing Guernsey in 1986.
No kidding.
And so that was a trophy given.
86 or 68?
68, excuse me.
68?
The highest producing Guernsey at that time. So my grandfather was very big into Guernseys. My dad switched over to Holsteins, and that was a big transition at the time. But when I was 10 years old, our house burned down, and my dad decided to not rebuild and to move to Texas because Texas was short on milk at the time. And they were asking for dairies to come over to Texas. Okay. So we moved to Central Texas, Stephenville. As a 10-year-old boy, I grew up there and spent most of my years growing up there. Love Stephenville. It's in my heart. Very big fan of the Stephenville area. Beautiful area. But in 2000, my dad was on the board of Dairy Farmers of America. They had a board meeting out here in New Mexico to visit the plant that they were building in Portales, and he fell in love with the area. And the dairies, the new dairies, the modern dairies that were being built out here. So he goes back after the board meeting, and I'm planting wheat at the time. And I said, I need some seed. So he brings me some seed out, and there on a planter on the back of it, he draws this dairy that he wants to build in New Mexico. And he says, I'm only going to do it if you go with me. And I think I was about 25 at the time. And so anyway, I said, New Mexico, Dad, come on. I've driven through New Mexico. There's not much in New Mexico. And I've only driven through the southern part, which is, very much desert. There's very desolate down there. I'd never been to this area. And so anyway, when we took me back over here to visit, beautiful fields, alfalfa, corn, potatoes at the time. And it reminded me a lot of where I grew up in Arizona, flat ground, farmland. And so it kind of a little bit felt like home. So grew up as a boy in Arizona, moved to Central Texas, where I absolutely love. I call myself a Texan, but New Mexico was kind of right in the middle. So for us, it was kind of going back a little bit towards home, but not right back at home. We've been here 26 years now. Don't really anticipate leaving in the immediate future.
Yeah. So what's interesting too, Jered, is the dairy is here,
Yes.
but you actually live 100 miles away, right?
So good story. This only happened a couple of years ago. My older two graduated here in New Mexico. My youngest son was a sophomore, and he had just finished winning the state championship in football here in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. My middle son also was on that team. He graduated, and my youngest son came to me and he said, "Dad, you won a state championship in Texas. I want the chance to do it too." And so I told you, I feel like I'm a Texan at heart.
Yeah.
And I felt like Texas was calling me back. So just only about 80 miles from here, we moved to Lubbock, the community of Shallow-Water, Texas, just outside of Lubbock. And so I actually live in Shallow-Water now. So I commute. I'll come over here for about 3 or 4 days, and I go back over there on the weekends. And so it's allowed my son to fulfill his dream of actually playing in Texas. And they just finished a good season in football. They didn't make the state championship, unfortunately, but he did enjoy his football season. He's playing baseball over there now. He's in his senior year, but we do enjoy Texas. My wife is born and raised here in this area, has never left this area. And for her, it was, the first time in her life leaving New Mexico. I can't get her to come back now. She's a Texas girl now. But her roots are in New Mexico, but I felt like my roots are in Texas. But that's the modern age of dairy farming.
Yeah.
We don't have to live on the farm. Okay, my father was that way. He felt like you should live on the farm. His father was that way. But I'm not. I'm able to venture out. I'm actually able to live 80 miles away. But because of modern technology and the internet,
yeah,
we're able to use our phones, our computers to see what's going on the dairy. I can monitor a lot of different things over in Shallow-Water, New Mexico, even though I'm not here on the dairy. And I also have my oldest son here on the dairy, which is a big help.
Yeah.
And I think without him, I probably wouldn't do that. But I do enjoy this technology. I mean, I do a lot of work over there. And then when I'm over here, I get to do like a lot of office work. And then when I come over here, I can actually work on like putting out fires. So, but I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a moment. This modern day dairyman, mindset that is a little bit different, like you said, or a lot bit different than how your dad would have looked at it, right? Sure. Being able to operate a business from so far away. So when you look at the technology that allows you to really be able to do that, Jered, one of those that you implemented was the Nedap Smart Tag.
Yes.
So walk me through, when did you bring that into your management system, and how pivotal was that in being able to operate from afar?
So it's very easy for me to remember this because it was 2 years ago, and it was in the spring 2 years ago. We put on the Nedap Smart Tags, and right after that, 3 weeks after that, we get bird flu. And Randy's here with us today, and Randy was very instrumental in helping me with these tags and understanding, the information that we were going to be getting from these tags. We're sitting at a restaurant in town. Now you got to understand, my family calls Randy Uncle Randy.
And this is Randy Tapia.
Yes, Randy's been with around my family for a long time. I grew up as a young boy with his older brother playing soccer. We would go by and pick up him and his brother, and we'd go play soccer together. So we grew up as kids together. Even though they took off and left Arizona before us, here we are back in New Mexico, back together. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. But at that time, 2 years ago, we had just put the collars on, and we were just starting to collect information, and I wasn't familiar with how to use it yet. And we're sitting in a restaurant, and my phone starts to blow up as, hey, this cow has an alert, this cow has an alert, this cow has an alert, all health alerts. And I was thinking something was wrong. like maybe the program wasn't working right. And Randy, because of his experience in other areas where they had already gone through bird flu, and this was just the start of bird flu, he told me, Jered, trust the data. What you're seeing is the start of bird flu. And it was really cool for me to then say, okay, Randy, what do you think we need to, how do we analyze this? And he sat down with me and showed me. And so from there, we went on to, treatment. And our treatment was different than what the first guys did because of the experience of the tags. You could easily make a treatment on a cow and see how she reacts. Oh, okay. So if she reacts positively, the treatment's working. If she doesn't, then of course you need to change. So he was able to tell me treatments that were working and not treatments that were not working. Very, very instrumental in helping us. So 2 years ago, we go through bird flu, we get through bird flu, and we've been using them ever since. We use them every day for health alerts. We use them for reproduction. We use them for herd analysis to see how the overall herd's doing.
So it's both that view of the whole herd, but then the individual cow data. But in that period of time, it was the individual cow response to treatment that really allowed you to manage that portion of working through bird flu.
Without the collars, it would have been just kind of stabbing in the dark. We would have been just guessing and hoping, and maybe we wouldn't have seen. Okay, so we were able to diagnose early, and we were able to actually analyze treatments early. So the guys that did not have collars during that time, I mean, maybe they didn't catch cows till it was a few days later, which made it worse. And then the treatments where they weren't able to see what was working until a few days later. So the tags were crucial in helping us during that time. Really helped us through. And then that taught us how to do or use the tags now. Okay. And that's where we are now. I mean, my guys got a real big crash course, and myself too, on how to use the tags for treatments of cows. And we analyze cows now on a day-to-day basis on analyzing how, if something's going wrong, getting it, diagnosed quick, and then treatment if it's working or not working. And that has been huge in helping us reduce our deaths, reduce cows in the hospital, the time in the hospital bin, and getting them out back into the herd again, in the milking herd.
So that health monitoring and decision making has been tremendous. When you look at the whole way that you manage health, repro, that big picture, what's changed in the herd management approach or workflow because of what you now know about cows and heifers on your
It's really simplified things. So my day, used to be I would wake up in the morning, of course, come to the dairy and start to say, okay, where are we at? What are we doing and stuff like that. Now my day starts at I read a report. Okay, so I have a report that comes out from Nedap telling me, hey, these cows are on the health list. These cows are on the reproduction list. Okay, that information is also transferred to a dairy comp file. Reports are already printed out, okay, sitting on the printer in the morning for the guys to look at. We also use the Nedap Now app, and so we can analyze reproduction statistics or numbers that in the cow pen. Okay, so we don't have to have those printed out reports. One of my guys just uses his phone. Okay, so my repro guy in the morning, I mean, he comes and he basically, this is kind of neat stuff that's developing now, and a lot of guys are starting to use it. But we use sort gates. So coming out of the barn in the morning, we don't have to lock up cows anymore. I mean, you won't see cows locked up on Cooper Legacy Dairy in the morning, except for on maybe a vet check day. But normally, we don't have cows locked up anymore because we're sorting them out through the sort gates, and those cows are then, put into a breeding barn that we've built, and our guy's using a handheld, phone where he has access to the data that tells him breed this cow or don't breed this cow. He can enter then that he bred her, enter the semen, and everything is then through the cloud transferred back to the computer. It's a very neat process. It's very simplified now. It's very clean because we used to do it on paper, right? And the thing out here in New Mexico that's constant is wind.
Wind, yeah.
And so all of a sudden you have this paper and you've filled out all of these statistics or data and it blows away and you're running 100 miles an hour trying to catch it. And it lands right where a cow just peed and it gets all messed up. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So we actually, we use handhelds, we enter the information, it goes right to the main computer and downloaded, and then it's uploaded into the cloud where then it's a storage device, so we don't have to worry about backups anymore.
Wow,
that's a service provided by Nedap now. Okay, there's a subscription that we pay, of course, to use these services, but what's great about that is we get all of the current technology that comes out. So any kind of an update that they make, we are access to that current updates.
So you're always kind of on the edge of what's new and what's designed to really make things easier.
One of the things that they just added in the app that I really like is the health score chart.
Okay, how do you use that? How's that help you
so it
guys
used
out?
to be that the three that were shown on the graph were inactivity, rumination, and eating time. Okay, and you had to use those three to kind of make a decision. Okay. I used to always say I want this app to be built called the Instant Herdsman. All you have to do is just add the person, and like instead of just adding water, add the person. It'll make the decisions for you. What they're doing now is they've taken that information and they are analyzing it and they are making a health score. And so you can track that cow's health score. And when that starts to drop, you know that it's because those other three areas, something's gone wrong. Okay. Now we use that information, those other three bars, to analyze what could possibly be going wrong. Okay. So of course, if eating goes way down, okay, but rumination stays up, we know that, hey, this cow might have a foot problem, right? She shouldn't have a stomach problem. She might have a foot problem. So she's not eating for some reason, but she's still ruminating. Okay. Let's say that, for example, activity goes up, but eating goes down and rumination goes down. That's a cow that's in heat. Okay, of course, she's running around the pen, she's not eating, she's at high activity. So we're able to use those different things. But I love the new health score that they just came out with.
So you can monitor, when you wake up in the morning, you can look at the data, you can look at the health score, but you also know that here at the dairy, 100 miles away, your team is able to do that. You have a 6th generation dairyman who is boots on the ground here.
Yes.
Who gets to also reference that data and pull up his phone and do all those things too. So, I mean...
his generation is going to be only that.
Yeah.
When I was young, as a very young boy, my dad still used the Rolodex. And he had cow cards. And he would look up cows that way. I remember going to his office. Yeah, Randy's shaking his head. Yes, he remembers. You'd pull the card out and you'd write it down. You'd look at the calendar and try to guess when the next heat would be and stuff like that. We don't do anything like that anymore. My son's never going to do that. I was fortunate to be a part of the generation that switched over to computers. Now we're going to the generation of information and technology. And then eventually, what are we going to go into? AI. So I think that we're going to have, this AI part of the technology that it's going to predict what these cows are going to be doing. So instead of actually reading current data, we're going to actually be reading predictions of what they will be doing.
Oh, does that excite you as a dairyman?
It does.
Yeah, and for Easton too, your son, that's speaking to every bit of technology that we're all using outside of the farm, but in daily life as well.
It has changed the view, I think, of what the modern dairy should be viewed as. When I tell people in town that I'm a dairyman, the first question I get, you wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And I say, only if something's wrong. That's not the way that we modern dairy anymore. We have these tools that give us the information to make current decisions, okay? And not only that, the modern dairy man is a businessman. And so, we don't have the time to sit there and look at individual cows all the time anymore. My role has changed. I look at overall views. Nedap now, Dairy Comp, allows me to see those overall views. And so I can analyze the business side of things. Easton and my herdsmen are still looking at individual cows. They're reading reports and trying to make the best decisions. But my job is to give them the right tools to be able to do that, okay? So I always say that the reason why people don't do things is maybe they don't have the right information, maybe they don't have the right tools, or maybe they're just not capable, okay? The training. And so if we can conquer those three things right there, give them the right information, give them the right tools, and then teach them how to use them, that's the modern age of dairying.
Yeah, and the tools are exactly what we've been talking about here. And gosh, I mean, at this point, could you imagine not having that tool?
I could not do what I do right now.
Yeah.
It's given me some freedom to be able to go out and do other things. We talked about this. My grandfather and my father got up early, came in for lunch, worked till late. We are now able to, get up, get the work done, and then go and do some other things. So it's given us some freedom to be able to enjoy some other things.
Yeah, and that vision or version, like you talked about too, the definition of the modern dairyman has really changed to what you're doing today. Sure. But I'm going to come back to the word legacy because it's part of your farm name here, Cooper's Legacy Dairy.
Yeah, it is.
And so there is a story behind that name.
Oh yeah.
And to me, it's also this progression between the past and growing into the future as well. So just take us back because it's such a cool story.
It is. It's a very neat story, and some of it's displayed behind us, and we can talk about it. When we moved over here, we were trying to figure out what to call the dairy. And I went to my father and I said, let's call it Legacy Dairy because it is a legacy of a bunch of different dairies coming together here in New Mexico. Of course, we called it Cooper's Legacy because we wanted to give that legacy a name. It's our legacy. And it starts probably that I know about, I know about in 1864. And you can see a picture here behind you of my great-great-grandfather and Ezra Forshee. And he's on a horse and buggy taking milk to market. And the very beautiful story that he has is he would take milk to market, but on the way in, he would stop and drop off bottles of milk. And you can actually see some of these bottles. Maple Lawn Dairy was the name of his dairy.
And that was
Plymouth,
in Michigan.
Plymouth, Michigan. This is my mother's side of the story. But anyway, he stops by a young lady's house. She was a teacher. And he drops off a fresh bottle of milk. And under the clean, empty bottle of milk, he finds a note. And we actually still have this note. It's right here. And anyway, it says, hey, I think you're kind of cute. And I would like you to stop for dinner sometime. And so anyway, he picks up the empty bottle, leaves a note back and said, I would love to. And that eventually ends up being my great-great-grandmother. And so anyway, that's the love story that starts the Cooper Legacy Dairy. When they say beware of the milkman, it's a true story.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
He will hook up. But anyway, that's the beautiful story. My grandfather in Plymouth, Michigan, continued the dairy on. He would milk cows in the morning and in the evening, but in the daytime he owned a restaurant where he would bake fresh pies using the cream from the dairy. They made milkshakes, one of them called the Boston Cooler. We still drink it every New Year's.
What's a Boston Cooler?
Boston Cooler is Verner's ginger ale and vanilla ice cream.
Really?
Yes, and if you go to Michigan, you can get a Boston Cooler, and it's a wonderful drink. We drink it on New Year's. That's how we celebrate New Year's.
Aww.
So anyway, but that was in Michigan. Unfortunately, my uncle had really bad asthma, so they had to get away from the humid air, and they moved to Arizona, and they stopped dairying. So that was my mother's side. On my father's side, they've been dairymen. My great-grandfather was a dairyman, but because of the Great Depression, he stopped dairying, and he went and drove a dump truck. He was killed by that dump truck. It came down on an accident, killed him. So my grandfather did not grow up on a dairy farm as a young boy. Okay, but he missed, well, as a very young boy he did, but then they stopped. And so, but he wrote stories in his journal about going to visit his aunt in Kansas, and they had dairy cows, and he just loved dairy cows. And that's kind of the story of generational dairy farming. I think it's in your blood. Yeah. You can't get away from it. And so he just always had a love for dairy cows. He becomes an ag teacher. And anyway, when he got married, his father-in-law gave him a milk cow for their wedding present. And he talks about in his story that he dragged this milk cow all over the place. Even made one trailer for one milk cow just to fit in that he said they would pull behind a car. And he would take his milk cow with him. And he just loved milk cows. But one cow became two became four 4 became 8, and now we milk 2,000 cows here at Cooper Legacy Dairy.
That's such a great story.
It is a really cool story.
Oh, I love that. And that's the legacy and Cooper's legacy. And what really stands out to me too, you talk about dairy being in your blood, but it also, it's beyond a location, and that's the story of your family. And, you talked about even in your own lifespan, a couple of different states here in the Southwest, but you go back to, Michigan, Kansas, that's all part of your family legacy. And I think that too, Jered, I think that's part of the story of the modern dairy family, that we sometimes miss as well, is the fact that it's not always in one spot for generations, but it's in the blood for generations, right?
We see now the introduction of industrialized dairying. I mean, it's starting to, we see it. We see these big, huge dairy farms. But I think the backbone of dairying in the United States is still dairy family farms. Yeah. Even a lot still from the people that immigrated over from Europe. We still see a lot of influence of the modern dairy farm. It's still got a lot of dairy family farms in it. And there's a lot of pride in that family farming, those dairy farms. And let's talk about U.S. agriculture. Every year we are challenged more and more and more to, produce a better product, a higher quality product, a cleaner product, a more safer product. And we keep meeting those demands. Every year we get better and better and better. And that just shows you the pride and the heart that we put into what we do. We believe that milk is the best product out there that you can consume. Just recently, we see it move to the top of the food chain.
Yeah. How cool is that?
That was very cool. We've known it forever. All right. Now the rest of the world is learning what we have known forever. Yeah. Milk is the best thing you can drink.
And you have a next generation that's now in the dairy here. Yeah. And Easton, he's in the room with us today. But tell me a little bit about that. What does it mean to you to have Cooper's legacy continue?
For me, it means the continuation of a lot of hard work. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of times in this business where it gives you opportunities to just break and to leave. You want to quit. But that opportunity to pass this on to the next generation and to allow them to do something that we've worked so hard at doing and that we love doing, once again, it's just hard to leave. I always say dairymen don't retire, they just die. And that was true of my father. My father dairied to the day that he died. The day that he died, he actually drove around the dairy that day. And that night, he just passed away quietly and in his own way. But what I'm trying to say is this, it's hard to get away from. But for the next generation, I will say this, is that it's an exciting time right now in that we are seeing that milk is moving to the front of the line. Yeah. Okay? And we've got to continue to push that narrative. We've talked about this a little bit. We need to educate the consumer a lot about the benefits of milk. All right? And these podcasts help, okay, to tell people that we are doing something that nobody else in the world can do, okay? And that's provide a product that satisfies almost every single nutrient a need in your body, okay? You can consume milk and live on milk forever, okay? So if you're gonna consume one thing right now, it's milk. And so for me to pass that on to Easton and to Bryce, my youngest son, who also showed interest in wanting to follow in the dairy business, I have an older daughter, but she's an actress, okay?
So she'll be a milk model.
Yes, yeah. I've told her that I want her to be an influencer for milk, do cooking show with milk. But she's an actress for Netflix, and so that's the role that she's kind of gone. And so I have my boys, which I call the Super Freds. That's not their names, but I just call them the Super Freds because they can do anything on this dairy. From a young age, they have wanted to do everything. I think you asked Easton if he had the little cows and the tractors and the trucks.
Said he still does.
He still has them. He will not let me throw them away. It's so funny. We would be in church and my wife would bring them, so they could play with them and keep them active and whatever. And Easton had to make the sounds of the trucks. So we're in church and everybody's hearing this. And we're like, Easton, silent trucks today.
Silent
trucks today. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, well, and so, fulfillment of legacy, right?
It's in their blood.
Yeah.
It's in their blood. I mean, I hope that the technology will continue to evolve and allow them to have more of the freedoms that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's hopefully the direction that we're going. And who knows? I mean, it might be that I will come back in 20 years and look at the Dairy Cooper Legacy Dairy. I'll still be here. I don't know. And say, wow, look at how much we've changed.
Oh,
we
gosh.
have to be okay with adapting to the new technologies. Yeah. I mean, they're hard to learn at the start, but once you get them down, oh, they're great.
Well, and I think what's beautiful too about the opportunity to be here and walk through the dairy with you and your son is that, you have that vision for him of having the freedom someday as a business owner, right? Yes. As a dairy business owner. But yet, he's a guy that loves being here. Like you can tell, I saw him petting his favorite bull in the pens, a cowman, he's a cowman and loves every bit of being here. But yet the future for him may allow him to have a freedom when he's ready for it, but he loves, you can tell.
Well, one of the greatest blessings in my life that I feel it was the opportunity to raise my kids on the dairy.
Yeah.
We lived here right on the farm, and they knew that they could come up to the dairy at any time and see Dad. And I would teach them about, what we're doing on the dairy. From the very young age, my boys drove tractors. They drove loaders. They drove
I heard a story about
There's a great story. Easton was about 4 years old, I believe. I think he was 4 years old. I mean, at a very, very young age. And I took him one evening to feed cows with me. And a storm blew in, and I didn't want to take him out of the loader and over to the tractor to go feed the cows. And so I said, just stay in the loader. I'll go feed the cows. I'll be right back. And returning back to where, we load the feed, I see the loader out of the corner of my eye driving around the back side of the commodity barn. And I'm like,
but you can't see the driver.
I can't.
Right?
No, all I saw was a steering wheel and two hands. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I remember calling my wife and I'm like, I don't know whether to cry or to laugh.
But you were also very proud.
Proud. My 4-year-old son is driving the loader. I'm like, oh my goodness, here is my next feeder. And at a very young age, he learned to do it. And he's been doing it, ever since. He doesn't do it on a daily basis now. Now as a graduate and starting here on the dairy full-time, I'm teaching him more of the business side of it, more of, the technology, more of the decision-making side of it. Yeah. See, I'm training him to be the next legacy.
Yes. And Jered, you are a great storyteller.
Oh,
and
no.
It's so fun to hear you share these stories and to paint the picture, whether it's the history of the family or even just watching your son grow up here. But you also have now started to put your stories onto paper.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And into a book. So tell me a little bit about this project that you're working on that brings together the stories of dairy life and farm life with some real life lessons too.
Well, it's interesting you asked the question. I mean, this is one of those things that I believe that the dairy industry has given me is a lot of grounding and roundness. I know there's a lot of us out there that, we do dairy from morning till night, and that's just always on our mind. But this was a project that my dad inspired me to do. So I saw the ending of this story in a dream, and it kind of impacted me so much that I woke up and I wrote it down. And it started out as a short story, and I presented it to my dad, and he read it and he liked it. And he said, I think you should write the book. And so he inspired me to start writing this book. And it's a fictional, non-fictional. So the non-fictional side of it is a compilation of stories. And so it's a story about family, football, faith, and farming. Okay, and a lot of F's in there.
A lot of F's.
But anyway,
a lot of F words.
I know.
But all good ones.
I know.
We don't have to bleep any of those F words out.
No bleeping of any of those. But anyway, it's a compilation of all these stories that I've heard from people, whether it was my mother and father's love story, whether it was my own personal story, it was some friends' stories, different things that happened. I told you I grew up in Stephenville, Texas. Stephenville is known for football. And so anyway, there's some good football stories in there. I was fortunate to win a state championship over there, the first state championship with Art Briles, who's a big name in football. And so anyway, there's some really good stories of that in there. There's some stories of a good friend of mine that grew up here in New Mexico that played at New Mexico State and then had a really decorated career and stories like that. But the coolest story of it all is it's a little bit of a love story. And this love story starts out with it's a fictional character. So all the characters are fictional, but non-fictional stories. But this fictional character that starts out that he is a superstar in the community in football. He's being, celebrated and praised, but he just doesn't have a lot of like faith grounding in him, and he's missing something. And I heard a story once that a guy told me. He says, there will be holes that you will be unable to fill in your life unless you find a little bit of faith, unless you turn to the Lord. And so that was true for this this character. He's going through life. He thinks he has it all, but he doesn't. And he meets a girl, and she is that for him. And that's the story, a little bit of not me, but like I said, fictional character, but the female character really follows what my wife is to me. She is that grounding influence. She keeps me so focused and centered on Christ, on family, on the future. And so when the dairy is very hectic and hard, she's that person for me. So this love story develops, and he kind of battles a little bit because he sees that, hey, I want to do this life that she's trying to influence him to be, but I still like my old life too. And so anyway, he goes on, and there's some really cool stories in there of talking about how he finally figures out what he wants to do. And farming has a lot to do with it. Things that happen on the farm. I've often said I want to write a second book it's called 10 Things I Learned on the Farm. And it's just stories of, individual things that my dad taught me, or I taught my kids that were on the farm that you don't live if you're in the city. And so just these things of nature, being close to God and stuff like that. But the cool story about it is that he meets this guy from New Mexico who's actually a really good friend of mine. And this guy lives that party life, that really kind of wild life, and it looks fancy. It looks enticing, and they go to college together, and he can see the contrast, and he's dealing with that. And so anyway, but in the end, I'm not going to give you the end of the book because you're going to have to eventually read it.
I have to read it.
But there's a great love story in there, and there's also a lot about farming and football, and there's also a lot about faith and building your faith. But in the end, it's really cool. I'll just tell you a small glimpse. I shared it with you earlier. There's a part in there where the superstar football player goes on to play in the NFL, and he gets injured, and he has to step away from football, and he learns that he doesn't have a whole lot after that, and he needs something. And he goes back to his good friend, and on the farm, he says, come farm with me. Come be out here, be close to nature. Allow God to teach you through nature. And a really cool story that I shared with you was about the dew, okay?
Yes.
And it's really cool. There's a scripture that says that the powers of the priesthood, which is the powers of God, will fall upon you like the dews of heaven. And if you ever have studied dew and know dew, and I know dew from being in Central Texas, there's a lot of dew, that it'll hover above the ground. And it's almost like you can see a layer of dew. And at the right temperature, that dew falls and it blankets the ground. That's like God's love. It's always hovering above us. And eventually, at the right time, when we need it, it'll fall and it'll blanket us. And so he learns that there's other things besides football and the wildlife and the partying that you can only learn through being close to God and feeling his love. So
Jered, you got me sold on the book already. So when can people like me read this book? It's in progress right now.
It is. It's being edited. Okay. So being a dairyman, I wrote the story. I'm not the most professional writer. And so, of course, there's some editing that needed to be done. and I sent it off to an editor, and she's currently editing it. I have seen some things that she's done with it, and it's great. It's actually, it's enhancing and it's making it good. And so I'm hoping maybe by the end of this year, she'll be done with it and we can get it out and get it published.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jered, when it is ready and available, you and I are going to chat again, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that would love to check out this book.
It's called Me Too.
Me Too.
Me Too. And there's a funny, good story about that.
So there's a lot of legacy here at Cooper's Legacy Dairy, and that word goes so many different directions, takes on a lot of meanings. But you know what's cool too is when we put these pieces together of the story behind your family, this farm, and also the future, and just being able to look at how the technology you're using is making it possible. But it also really is what's securing your 6th generation of dairying in your family here too, isn't it?
Part of my responsibility, I feel, is to pass on what I have been blessed with through my grandfather and my father, and I'm sure their grandfather and their fathers, that I can pass that on to my children. Yeah. You see a picture here behind me. This is actually all of my brothers and sisters. I have 8 brothers and sisters, so there's 9 of us in total.
That's a long horse.
My dad says that he thinks that might be a Guinness Book of World Record. Most siblings on one horse. Of the 9, I'm the only one left in the dairy industry. And so anyway, I feel like it's a little bit of my responsibility to carry that legacy on and pass this on to my sons, who will hopefully eventually pass it on to their kids. There's going to be challenges. There already is. And we're going to deal with those challenges. But like we talked about, U.S. agriculture is no better at overcoming and doing better and better and better. Every year we're challenged, and every year we meet the standards.
Oh, that's fantastic, Jered. And you know, as we wrap up our conversation today, what's the one piece of advice that you want to leave for your own son? And I mean, maybe that piece of advice that you'd share with any other young person coming into the dairy business, from your perspective of where you're at now.
Love what you do. Love what you do. Wake up every day and recognize the blessing that it is to be alive, the blessing it is to be able to enjoy the freedoms we enjoy this country. I thank the men and women that are out there fighting for our freedoms right now. They allow us to do what we do. At every opportunity I get to stand and salute them, I do so. But love what you do. I mean, come out here and find a way, some way to find some joy in doing it. It's not going to be every day. It's a roller coaster ride. But in the end, I hope that the good outweighs the bad. And that's my story. I told you at the start of the book, there's dedication to my father, who inspired me to write it. But he had a saying that said, we all have a story to tell, we just tell it differently. So start writing your story. Start writing your legacy.
On that note, Jered, I think that's a great way to wrap up our conversation today. Is there anything we missed?
I don't think so. I hope that by the end of the year, I can tell you that the book's out, and I hope that one day you'll come back and visit us. We have a motto here at Cooper Legacy Dairy: you bring the cookies, we'll provide the milk.
Oh, dang it. Randy didn't tell me to bring cookies. Next time I'm coming back with cookies, and we'll see you then.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show, share this episode with your friends in the dairy community, and leave a review. At Uplevel Dairy, we are here to highlight the leaders, the lessons, and the real-world experiences that are shaping the future of our dairy industry. Find more by following us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and upcoming guests. And subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on learning, keep on leading, and keep up-leveling your dairy.